How's it going, everyone? Um, Welcome to the channel. Here we check out these strange and so-called conspiracy TikTok videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and start.
Okay, part one of the Marine Spirit series. We're going to talk about Leviathan today. Let's get into it. So Leviathan is mentioned in the Bible several times. It's mentioned in several different books, Job, Isaiah, Revelation. It is known as the king of pride spiritually. So a lot of people think that this is figurative when he's talking about the Leviathan. I think that it's both. I think that there is a literal Leviathan that is in the oceans, and I also think that there's a spiritual side to this where there's a spirit of Leviathan that we deal with today. So the first thing that you're going to notice when dealing with this spirit is that it twists the truth. It will always lie, it would always manipulate and deceive and kind of twist things. There will always be a little bit of truth mixed in with it, but for the most part, it'll twist it to make it into whatever benefits it at that moment. Number two is it always breaks covenants. It does not matter how special that covenant is to you. It cannot keep covenants. It does not honor covenants at all. It will always sever your relationship with God. It will always move in certain ways to try to hinder your relationship that you're trying to create with the Lord. It is often described as stiff-necked. A lot of times you'll actually notice that you'll have neck pain or even shoulder pain when dealing with this spirit, and it's actually a physical symptom from dealing with this thing. It also blocks communication with the Holy Spirit. So a lot of times you'll notice that you're unable to pray. It just seems like you're not hearing anything. Like you just can't pray. Like your prayers are hitting the ceiling and just falling right back down. It is proud, arrogant, and haughty. This is a very arrogant spirit. A lot of us know people that are arrogant. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are dealing with Leviathan, but you will notice somebody with a Leviathan spirit is very arrogant. Oftentimes it will lift up leaders just to tear them down. It deals with depression a lot, or causes depression in other people a lot. It has a lot of blame and self-pity. So it'll blame other people while being the victim. It can also come off as like a narcissistic type spirit, almost in the same way that a Jezebel spirit can. One way that you know that you're being oppressed by this, or you're around somebody that has it, you'll have frequent dreams of choking or not being able to breathe in your sleep, and that is a very common dream to have when you're being oppressed by this spirit. Leviathan wants to kill absolutely anything of meaning or value in your life. It wants to take out your relationships, your finances, your reputation, anything that is of value to you. It wants to destroy it. Not gonna lie, I was looking up photos to use for this and I started freaking myself out last night. Anyway, you cannot reason with this spirit. You cannot calmly talk to this, and like how normal people will try to reason with arguments and things, you can't do it. It will never hear your side, and anytime that you try to give your side, it will have some kind of a rebuttal as to why it's your fault instead of theirs. This is one of the hardest spirits to get deliverance from because there's that pride there, and these people normally don't think that anything is wrong. So the first thing that needs to happen is they need to recognize that they have this spirit. This spirit is also similar to Jezebel in that way. It kind of carries that narcissistic tendency. But there has to be a true humbling and breaking of that prideful, self-righteous attitude. And that's why a lot of times people don't get deliverance from this spirit, because the pride and the narcissism that is there is usually, I'm the victim, there's nothing wrong with me, you have that spirit, it's not me. So it's really, really hard for somebody to get deliverance, but they can. They just have to recognize that they have it and truly ask for repentance, and then start working on, once they are delivered, refilling themselves with the word and making sure that it doesn't come back. So this is part one. We will cover probably sirens. I may cover it tonight. We'll see what happens, but if nothing else, I will cover it by tomorrow. Let me know if there's anything else that you guys are interested in.
Oh, that was it. Wouldn't that just be the Antichrist spirit? Or, yeah. I don't know.
Been taught is a massive lie. Before the civilization we have today, there was another civilization that's been hidden from us. The Tartarian Empire was a civilization that was far more advanced than us, but in a different way. They had harnessed the ability to use atmospheric energy. They incorporated it into all of their buildings and were able to create free energy for everyone at all times. They had also harnessed the power of frequencies and were able to build grand architecture by manipulating substances and moving huge rocks through vibration. Hence the Great Pyramids and many other unexplainable architectural anomalies that were created in the past. The free energy was a threat to the massive oil industry and all the profits they were able to generate from the scarcity of oil. So the owners of this industry, who were extremely powerful, created a plan to take out this civilization and wipe them from history so nobody would ever know about free energy. And they destroyed all their architecture and technology. They did their best to cover up any evidence that the Tartarians ever existed. So this is why
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't think it was Tartaria, or I don't really know. I think it was probably the Millennial Kingdom. So that beginning of that video made me think. I had a dream about giants on the moon last night. That's strange.
What was a shadow people?
6'6" in height, but again, very, very dark in nature, so there was no detail. Jumped on top of her and pressed her down into the bed. And the shadow man jumped back off, ran back out into the hallway, and she saw another flash of light. The next morning when she woke up, she noticed that all the electronics in that room had been absolutely fried, and she had to call the fire department for them to come and inspect everything.
In addition to hearing and feeling surges of energy, witnesses often report another curious detail about the shadow people: the appearance of glowing eyes.
A lot of the shadow people have no facial features whatsoever, just blackness. But some do have glowing eyes, and in particular, it's the one with the red glowing eyes that appear to be the most malevolent.
Wouldn't those just be demons? I feel like they make up a bunch of names and, I don't know, backstories. And there's just a simple explanation.
They've identified at least 7 stars that might be surrounded by super advanced alien megastructures known as Dyson spheres. Yes, I said alien structures, and I know what you're thinking, but just stay with me here, because the basic idea was this: superior intelligent life might build big structures around their home stars or planets as a way to harness or reuse that energy. A 1960s physicist who came up with this idea, Freeman Dyson, argued that if these structures existed, there'd be so much energy that human scientists on Earth could probably spot it because it would emit a lot of infrared.
They're also saying it looks exactly what an angel would look like in the Bible. I've been saying this for a long time. They keep putting things in the movie about the future, about advanced technology, and then it comes out in the news later on. They have to ease your mind into the things that they know in Fear of Panic. But do y'all remember in the Marvel movie, Thor had used the star that they had trapped in this type of sphere and create a new hammer for him to use? I don't know about y'all, but this does not look okay to me. How would you feel if you had a cage around your aura and energy, and this cage is constantly sucking all of your life force? I always keep in mind with everything that I see across this world, the as above, so below saying. That is a parasite. When I watched the Avengers, I felt so bad for that star being used like that, because I believe that stars are celestial bodies. Over different religions, there are so many people who have the title of the sun god Ra, Amaterasu, goddess of the sun, Inca, I hope I'm saying this one right, Soraya, basically giving a human form to the celestial consciousness. Just to expand your mind on why this looks weird to me, this is just a sad scene to me. When you leave your body and leave this physical form, you are energy, just like these stars, energy. Say, for instance, when you leave your body and transcend, there is some weird energetic cage that you are locked in. And some people are locked in dimensional cages. Sometimes it's called purgatory. Sometimes it's called the 4th dimension. Sometimes they're called ghosts who can't move on. Run. I'm going to tell you why you should run. So in conclusion, if you decide that you don't want to be a physical human anymore, you want to be a star, you want to be a planet, you want to be a tree, and you have this technology that is around you, a box, a cage that is sucking your energy, why would you glorify that? So yeah, free this star.
Man, I think Gnostics just believe anything they hear, don't they? I mean, why does she think there was cages? I don't know where. I know there's books and whatnot, but I feel like they just make up a lot of the stuff, make it fit, you know.
Found in the Grand Canyon. You know the 20-foot tall Grand Canyon people that the wedding couple found earlier this week that scared them away? Well, this is the creature. It is an unidentified creature. It's known to be very violent. It seems that we don't know any more information, that it came from an asteroid or a UFO.
That's it. So it's what, a part of the mountain?
I mean, his hands were really down like this against his side, and his eyes were really big, and he looked so scared. And I stepped toward him, and I remember thinking, my God, he's paralyzed with fear. That's the thought that went through my mind. And I stepped toward him, and I put my hands out to him, and I said, sweetie, they won't hurt you. They won't hurt you. You'll be okay. They won't hurt you. And it was like he couldn't even hear me. He didn't look at me. His eyes were just like straight ahead. And the light was all around us at that time. But there was nothing I could do. And that's the last thing that I remember. Everything after that was like a dream. We just got like really, like in a dream where things, out of sequence, and I knew I wasn't in my home. I didn't know where I was, but I could hear Danny screaming, and I was just like trying to hit something. I remember it was just really crazy. And then the next thing that I remember was waking up the next morning.
Do you believe?
Man, they're always messing with children, and I just hate that. A lot to be said about that, but I mean, it's been happening, for forever, basically. I mean, even now, that's what abortion is. You're sacrificing, your child for, financial reason, just because you don't want to raise it, job, whatever. You're sacrificing it for something.
Let's get into this guy. I've never been a fan of him. I honestly think he's really creepy. And lately I've just been seeing a lot of things, and I came across this video of his old nanny talking about how she believes that he is the Antichrist. Now, one thing I don't do is play with all that spiritual stuff, and I really do try to not even really speak on a lot of things like this, because if there's a God, there is the Antichrist. If there is a God, there's a devil. And I don't think people really realize that. And you do have to be careful, especially with these celebrities. And lately that's been on me, because these celebrities they really do play a huge influence in certain people's lives, especially these younger kids. It seems like they're just so obsessed with these celebrities, and it's like, y'all don't even know these people. Be obsessed with your mom and dad, people that provide for you. Those need to be people you look up to, not these celebrities that you know nothing about, what they stand for, or any of that. So basically on the video of his nanny talking, she basically talked about this family that came from Africa, and how he did something really, really bad at a young age. They don't really talk about what exactly he did, but they said it was really awful. And how basically it makes sense to me, because it's like he's so strong on these Neuralinks or whatever it's called, basically putting chips in people's heads, and I don't understand why. First of all, why do you feel like you got it like that to where you just can put chips in people's head and experiment on them? Put a chip in your head. Then where this costume comes in, he's wearing this costume that worships this devil worshiping costume or whatever it is to a costume party. I don't know. If he's not the Antichrist, he's most definitely doing something, marking the beast or whatever. But he's filthy rich. He has power to do any and everything. And I don't know, he just always been weird to me. I never really got too into him, but I done seen a few videos talking about how people think he's the Antichrist. But when I seen that video of his nanny, people want to say people like that is just crazy, or they just don't have nothing else to do. This lady, about 70 years old, why would she, what would she get out of that? Saying that this man is the Antichrist. Somebody I nannied years ago. I'm just now coming out to the public and just wanting to bash him. No. Sometimes y'all gotta stop thinking people are crazy and listen to them. But ever since like I said, I'm an American Horror Story freak. I've talked about American Horror Stories in some of my past videos, and how I feel like I said, TV and this stuff, they show us, they tell us. And I feel like they do get this, they don't just get this stuff from nowhere. But on the show, the Antichrist, He was crazy when he was young. He's just awful. Did all type of awful things, and he built himself up. And then another thing that I just noticed on the American Horror Story, the Apocalypse. If y'all haven't watched it, please watch it, because it'll make way more sense if you watch it and you watch this video of me talking about it. He basically got the help of these geniuses that work with robots, right? So the Antichrist, he's probably like 17, 18 years old. He don't know what to do, but he does know that he is the son of Satan. This is the show I'm talking about, y'all. So he finds this church, this Antichrist church, this devil worshiping church. They find out that he's the Antichrist, and they want the end of days to happen. The people at the church that worship Satan, they want the end of days. So they find out that he is the spawn of Satan, and they take him to these people, these guys that work with basically AI and robots and can do anything. And the reason they said that they used to be like broke, living out of a van, but then they sold their soul to the devil, and now they're billionaires and own the top AI and top robotic company in the world. So they helped him, basically in the world with science. All right. And now the math is mathing, y'all. Because I don't watch that season, that specific season, a million times. And now it do seem a little similar now. The Antichrist on the show got help from people that run the top robotic company in the world to end the world. So the richest man in the world now, that's trying to place chips in people, and that basically owns several robotic companies, is Elon Musk. And like I said, if he's not the spawn of Satan, he's trying to do something with these robots and AI and all that to do something. So I would just keep my Bibles close, y'all, and just keep being prayed up, because like I said, if there's a God, there's the devil. And I just don't play with this type of stuff. I really don't. And it's honestly really scary, because if it's not him, it's somebody. But he's most definitely walking around. And they say he's supposed to be loved by people. I don't love him. But you have foolish people that worship this guy. I don't know why. He don't do anything for me, though. But y'all just be safe out here. Let me know what y'all think.
American Horror Story sucks. I've seen that season she's talking about. It was terrible. And with Elon Musk, I mean, he's giving off false prophet vibes, definitely. I don't know. I mean, that Neuralink seems like they just want to control people, right? I don't know. All seems bad. I don't like him. You know, a lot of people really are liking him nowadays, but he's no good. And that lady, his nanny or whatever, I've seen a video on her talking about that. She didn't actually say he was the Antichrist. She said he's supposed to usher something in. I forget what, but that he wasn't the Antichrist. It's somebody else. I don't know.
While I was browsing through the Internet Archives, I stumbled across this old video. It's CCTV footage from 1990. It shows a couple of kids playing in an alley, kicking a ball around, when something bizarre happens. If you're the sensitive type, you might just want to keep scrolling. The event happens here, but I have to show it to you in freeze frames for, well, you know why. Here are the freeze frames of what happened. The next scene is perhaps the most haunting, because it shows a giant gaping hole in the ground where the dumpster made impact. How does something like this happen? The link to the original post for this video was broken, so there was no way to trace it back to its original poster, and no way to find out where it came from. If anybody has any information about this video, please let me know in the comments. I posted the full version on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the comments.
I probably wouldn't even have put that on this video if I had realized, if I had watched it. I haven't seen these, so I don't know.
Scholars even want to talk about it because they don't know what to say about it. It's a brief text. It's only about 2,000 lines. All right. And it is written as if an observer were present the day that the Creator created humankind, step by step. However, it's written in a language that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Is it like Genesis or totally different?
It's very different from Genesis. I think Genesis probably partially derived from this text, the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book of creation. It literally translates to the book of creation. So it was as if someone were watching the Creator actually create the first person.
Doing what he did.
Doing what he did. But it is not written scientifically. The bottom line to what the text is saying is that through language, humankind was created. And that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Explain that.
If you take it literally. But as I began to follow the instructions as the author created them in this text, and this, George, this is the power of transcending the boundaries between science and spirituality. Because if a scientist only looked at the elements of life, you'd never make this discovery. If you only look at the spiritual text, you would never make this discovery. But it's by blending the two together and allowing them to tell the story. So we today in modern science, we talk about life as the result of elements, and we describe elements through word and through number. So we have the periodic table, for example, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon makes up the DNA of our bodies. Those are the words, and for every one of those words, there are a lot of numbers that may be applied. There are 17 different numeric parameters that go with each of those. So put that aside. When you go back into the ancient text and the Sefer Yetzirah specifically, they did exactly the same thing. They talked about the power of the letters of very specific alphabets. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to modern scholars until we begin to understand that every ancient alphabet, bar none, that I have found so far, has always from day one with each letter had a mysterious number associated with the letters. We don't know where the numbers came from. They never change. It's a unique numeric code. The study of that code is called gematria, and it was actually formalized. The 32 laws of gematria were formed in the 2nd century. They were formalized in the 2nd century. And the only way gematria works is you cannot deviate from these laws. There are specific laws that apply to the numbers. So our ancestors were also talking about life using words and numbers. So they have the letters of the alphabets and this mysterious number. We're using the periodic table. We got a whole bunch of numbers.
Right.
My job was to find out which of those numbers equates to the numbers in the ancient alphabets. And if I could do that, my thinking was it would be possible to look at human DNA, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and different combinations of that, and substitute the ancient letters for the numbers based upon this correlation. This, in retrospect, it was simple, but not knowing that it took years. Right. It took me 12 years.
And did you break it?
To find what we now know is that the atomic mass of the elements, the numbers of the atomic mass, are the numbers that equate to the mysterious letters in the ancient alphabets. What that means is when you look at human DNA, or the DNA of any life, it is made of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, and using gematria, the numbers that equate to those become 1, 5, 6, and 3. 3 is with the carbon. And when you then take a table, one of the ancient tables, and you're able to correlate those numbers with the letters, what we find, George, is that the human DNA our genome is built in layers. And at the top layers, it's like every book has an introduction. The introduction in every cell of every form of life, carbon-based DNA, the introduction is the same. And the first translation literally reads, God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. And God that is depicted in the DNA is actually spelled the way that the name of God was spelled in the ancient texts before it was removed 6,800 times. In the Torah, for example, the sacred name of God is believed to be so sacred it cannot be written in its entirety.
Why put it in a code?
This was, so first as a scientist, what I have to say is this. People say, why is the code there? Yeah. And I say, I don't know. All I know is that when I followed the instructions in a 3,000-year-old text and I applied it to the periodic table, this is what we have. Yeah. Next question, is it a coincidence? So
there are no coincidences.
I had a statistician run the numbers for me, and the odds of this happening by chance are 1 to 234,256.
Yeah.
234,256 to 1 are the odd, or 0.00041%.
Right.
Those are the odds that it's just
random.
Just random. Now, those aren't astronomical odds. I thought it might be like 1 to a bajillion, you know. But when you take into account,
It's still high.
Not only is the language there, but when you take into account what the words say, that those words actually have meaning, God eternal within the body.
And they all say that.
The first letter in all human DNA, if you can look at what's called the genetic code, CTAG, every one of those is made up of combinations of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and they are arranged. I don't want to be really technical when I talk about this, but they're arranged different numbers of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen atoms. So within each of the DNA bases that make our DNA as it is, there are different combinations of CTAG that break down the different combinations of God eternal within the body. And the God within ourselves, within our DNA, is literally the same spelling of the God that was taken from those texts. Now here's the beauty. I just have to say this. All right. My first fear was I found it in the Hebrew language. And I said, does that mean, could it actually be divisive if it only is found in one language? And when the research went to its fruition, what we found is it is in Hebrew and Aramaic and Sanskrit, 3 of the root languages.
The same thing. Exactly
the same thing. So in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Sanskrit, the code for those letters translates precisely the same in the human DNA.
And some people just speak really well, and they can get people to believe all kinds of crap.
To a room, and Phasaeus had been watching a television transmission from Chicago, and policemen had just shot a black man that was running away. And then the policeman apparently ran over and tried to save his life. Okay? Phasaeus turns to me and he says, I don't understand your race. I don't understand why one would try to take his life and then the next minute try to save it. I didn't have an answer. In fact, many times I don't have an answer. Another time, I came on board. I was living in Lake Arrowhead at the time, and Mornay was looking at a group of meters on the ceiling of this ship, and it was all about the ozone and the air, oxygen content in our atmosphere. And he looked very distressed, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Don't they understand that all of this is here because they need it? They don't understand how we can just so carelessly destroy our environment." Now, folks, I want to share something with you. If there was not divine intervention, which apparently there has been, March 23rd of 1994, if there has not been divine intervention, and I will cover that, according to the Andromedans, we would only have 41 years left worth of oxygen in our environment. 3,500 years ago, the oxygen content, they say, was at 35, fluctuated between 35 and 38% between the North and South poles. Today, at its highest level, it's less than 18%. Now, those of you who took biology, what happens to the human form when oxygen as a gas goes below 15%? We die. We suffocate. This is reality, folks. This is reality. This is not Peter Jennings. Okay? This, you know, I mean, we don't have anywhere else to go. You know, and for those, and this is just what I've been told, and for those of you who think there's going to be a rapture, you might be disappointed. And I'm not saying this to question your belief. I'm just telling you that there are much bigger forces going on here. Okay, next slide, please. Save the question, sir, for later. Okay, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our solar system. There is life in all of these systems surrounding us. They have been coming here for years. For years they've been coming here. Okay, mythology, there's a shred of truth in all of it. The work that Zecharia Sitchin is doing, an absolutely fantastic book is called The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. I would suggest that those of you who have not read it, go get it in paperback version. It'll bring you right up to speed right away. It's wonderful. And he's not a UFO person, which is why I enjoyed it even more. All the truths, just let him right to it. In fact, there are more truths there's more truth that the aliens are out there than they aren't. They just don't want you to know because they don't want you to know who you are. Because the minute we wake up, the game's over. They cannot control us. And if you look at our past history, if you read Zechariah Sitchin's books, we as a race, when we stand together, rebel against the gods, the ETs. We rebel because they have been, pardon my French, shitting on us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years and holding us back. Next slide, please. Okay, here's Earth. If we could just get focus, thanks to me. This is what's left of Maldek. You know, the series of planets. The moon is not the only artificial. There are 9 artificial moons in our solar system, and I will share with you later what those are. I just want to cover a lot of information. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the typical and traditional picture. Does that look focused to you? Yeah. Okay, maybe it doesn't. Okay. This is the traditional picture that we see of Earth. We got an awesome home, folks. It's one of the nicest ones around. But there's some things about our planet that have been withheld from us. For example, our Earth is, in fact, hollow. It is hollow. The next slide, I'm going to show you a NASA photograph that proves that there's an opening at the North Pole. Okay? You can find this photograph in a book called Our Violent Universe by Nigel Calder. It was first released in England, and I don't know how this one slipped through the cracks, but it did. Thank goodness. We are told that the gravity of our planet has to do with the rotation. According to the Andromedans and their science, the radiation of...
I'd like to go check out the North Pole. It's interesting he said hollow Earth, because I don't know, it just seemed like he was saying a bunch of crap before that. I don't know. If you can't tell, I don't believe the whole Gnostic stuff. I'm a Christian. I believe on Jesus. Anyways, that's the last clip I got. Sorry if I seem kind of doom and gloom. I didn't mean to. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and God bless.